Hello and welcome to our first episode of GWeek for the semester.
To kick things off today, we will be covering everything from the vice presidential debate to Japan's elections.
We will also dive into Love is Blind DC edition and spooky things to do this fall with our lifestyle correspondents. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. I'm Abigail Brubaker.
And I'm Avanti Patworthan. There's no shortage of news right now, so let's jump right in. On September 24th, U.S. News & World Report released its 2024 to 2025 rankings for the best national colleges and universities. The report factors in a variety of data, including graduation rates, first-year retention rates, financial statistics, student-to-faculty ratio, and quality of undergraduate and graduate programs. GW ranked at number 67 last year, but rose to number 63, tying with several other universities such as Michigan State, Penn State, and Tulane University. This climb came as a surprise due to GW's fall from 62nd place to 67th in last year's rankings. The peer schools GW is most often compared to include Georgetown University, American University, NYU, Boston University, and UC Berkeley. Among these, all were ranked above GW with the exception of American.
Japan's new Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba calls for an early parliamentary election quickly after getting confirmed. Emma Grace Myers has the story.
The head of Japan's governing party, Shigeru Ishiba, was approved as Prime Minister on Tuesday, October 2nd, after former Prime Minister Fumio Kishida stepped down due to corruption scandals. Since the Liberal Democratic Party has a parliamentary majority, Ishiba was quickly confirmed and is now calling for a parliamentary election to be held on October 27th. The snap election is set to take place more than a year before it is due and will decide which party controls Parliament's lower house. When former Prime Minister Kishida took office in October of 2021, he reversed Japan's nuclear energy phase-out and pursued a rapid military buildup. He avoided controversies surrounding gender and sexual diversity. His top priority was to keep a stable grip on power by preventing clashes with members of the Liberal Democrats' powerful conservative group, led by the late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. In December of 2022, Kishida's government adopted a new security and defense strategy due to the assassination of Abe earlier that year. There was also a rapid buildup of Japan's military power, which was a major break from Japan's post-World War II self-defense only concept. The United States has expressed respect for Kishida as he pushed bold changes in Japan, specifically in defense and security policies, and in standing against Russia and China. Ishiba does plan to keep some of Kishida's economic policies in place. Kishida aimed to pull Japan out of deflation and increase salaries. Ishiba also plans to tackle challenges such as the declining birth rate and population in Japan. He announced his top party leadership lineup at a press conference on Monday, where he also mentioned the aforementioned election date. The head of the party's election task force is former Environmental Minister Shigeru Koizumi, who placed third in the party's leadership race. Ishiba aims to establish an Asian, NATO-style military alliance and seeks a more balanced Japan-U.S. security partnership, which would involve joint management of U.S. bases in Japan and the creation of Japanese self-defense force bases in the U.S. He also hopes for discussions with regional partners regarding the use of U.S. nuclear deterrence. Ishiba's more moderate stance has been viewed by his party as essential in countering challenges from the liberal-leaning opposition, as well as maintaining voter support, especially as the party navigates the corruption scandals that damage Kishida's popularity. With a snap election approaching, voters will soon decide if his leadership can restore public trust and steer Japan forward. Signing off for GWeek, I'm Emma Grace.
Thanks, Emma Grace. This past Tuesday, the International Longshoremen's Association went on strike to demand wage increases and to protest automation. The strike is taking place across 14 major East Coast and Gulf Coast ports, and determining the end of the ILA's strike is murky territory. This demonstration will most directly lead to inflation, specifically for pharmaceuticals, apparel, and automobiles. Shortages and delays are also expected. According to CNBC, following the Federal Reserve's first rate cut in 4 years, quote, a prolonged strike could reverse these gains, forcing the Federal Reserve to reconsider its economic strategy and possibly reintroduce more restrictive measures, end quote. As of October 3rd, quote, the International Longshoremen Association and the United States Maritime Alliance, LTD, have reached a tentative agreement on wages, end quote, according to the union and the alliance. According to NBC News, employers agreed to a 62% pay hike, but negotiations on automation still to come.
Financial reforms, organizational communication, and mental health. My name is Gianna Jacobowski, and this is your SGA Unlocked monthly update, where we highlight some of the recent initiatives of our student government has been up to. Let's go. On September 18th, the SGA hosted a discussion for club presidents to express concerns and ask questions. Over 100 representatives attended, and 2 days later, the SGA announced that there would be another club presidents event in October. Students, however, have expressed concerns over the impact and efficiencies of these meetings. Drew Nisbet, Alpha Chi Sigma's president, was in attendance and said, quote, the meeting was productive in terms of information, but I wish there could be more hands-on help present, unquote. She also said, quote, I think they could work on problem solving during the meeting instead of listening only to concerns, end quote. As students returned to campus, many were excited to hear about the extended dining hall hours that the SGA announced was a promise they delivered on. The new hours are, as displayed on their Instagram, detailed that all dining halls would close at 10 p.m. After speaking with student leaders involved in the process, this seems to have been an initiative that the administration from GW Dining spearheaded with input from both the SAP committees and SGA leadership. On September 23rd, the SGA Senate confirmed Michael Ubis as the commissioner of next year's Joint Elections Commission, otherwise known as the JEC. This comes after Ubis served as JEC Vice Commissioner last year and oversaw the closest and most engaged election in recent GW history at a 16-vote difference between President Fitzgerald and the runner-up, Lauren K. Harris, and 43.98% increase during the 2024 election. On September 28th, the SGA held a mental health day with organizations such as the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and the Student Health Center. This comes as one of the ideas born out of the 2-year-old Mental Health Assembly, which seeks to uplift the counseling and psychological services at GWU and promotable student inquiries. Last Sunday, the SGA Student Court dismissed the ongoing case against President Fitzgerald and Vice President Lynn. The plaintiff, Will O'Connell and Lily Vanderlyn, filed a complaint against the two last during the campus protests and encampment. The official charges brought against Fitzgerald and Lynn were, quote, violations of the SGA charter through a lack of action and advocacy. Chief Justice Matthew DeBellis dismissed the case on the grounds that the briefing documents were not submitted to the court. Furthermore, associate justices found civil misconduct from both Fitzgerald, Lynn, O'Connell, and Vanderlyn. When asked her thoughts on the matter, Associate Justice Salazar said, quote, "The actions displayed in this case fall short of the expectations and decorum and civility that the student body rightfully demands," end quote. At their last meeting, the SGA Senate passed their most recent finance-based piece of legislation titled the SGA Finance Definition Bill, which defined what a student organization in quote-unquote good standing was, referring to the issues dealt with when student organizations involved in the last semester's encampment including but not limited to Muslim Student Association and Jewish Voices for Peace being suspended by the university, which by policy preventing the SGA from allocating funds to those organizations. This was your weekly update. Follow us on Instagram to find out more about what GW student government has been up to. Until then, this has been SGA Unlocked. I'm Gianna Jacobowski. Thanks for watching.
Some recent changes have been made to the GW dining plan on how and where meal swipes can be used. Raina Pulaski has the story.
Many GW students over the years have expressed frustration over the limitations of Boost, the mobile ordering app that allows students to place an order from any of the meal swipe locations on campus that offer meal deals, such as Halal Shack or Absurd Bird. Students often experience glitches and malfunctions when attempting to place orders through Boost, either being unable to place orders or using a meal swipes that wouldn't be received by the dining location, resulting in a loss in meal swipe hours. However, the Student Advisory Panel on Dining, an advocacy group that works with GW Dining to incorporate student opinions, has made an exciting announcement. Meal swipes will soon be available to use through Grubhub for GW students. Although Grubhub Plus is currently available with dining dollars, the new program will allow students to use their swipes to place orders in advance on-campus meal deal locations. We spoke with Lily Shaw and Henry Shriven Young, members of the Student Advisory Panel on Dining, to ask them for more information that led to this decision. This new program is aimed at providing students with the additional option of placing meal deals online at GW locations at no extra cost, with the intentional benefit in ensuring convenience and efficiency. Along with the switch from Boost to Grubhub, GW Dining will be implementing Aussie, a new sustainable system of to-go boxes aimed at eliminating single-use compostable items from residential dining halls. To use Aussie, students pay $5 dining dollars to receive a token that they then use in exchange to pick up a reusable container. These Aussie containers can be used at any of the residential dining halls. After using the container, students have to bring it back to Aussie drop-off bin around campus. Upon returning the container, students will receive their token, and they can continue using the Aussie system. At the end of the semester, students will receive their $5 dining dollars back by returning the token to the GW Dining office. With this new initiative, GW Dining hopes to establish more sustainable dining experiences for GW students. I'm Raina Pulaski for GWeek.
Thanks, Raina. On Tuesday, Claudia Sheinbaum was sworn in as Mexico's first female president in the country's capital. The 62-year-old scientist and former mayor of Mexico City took the oath of office on the floor of Congress, saying, quote, "It's time for a transformation, it's time for women," end quote. Sheinbaum took the victory back in June with nearly 60% of the vote, largely due to her pledge to continue the popular policies of her predecessor, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Sheinbaum faces many challenges as the new president, including the country's high levels of violence, a slow economy, and rising debt.
The nation's capital is a hub for limitless opportunities. However, finding love is not a common success. Netflix hit show Love is Blind has decided to tackle this challenge by showcasing DC in its upcoming season. To find willing participants, the network knew exactly how to get the message around DC, LinkedIn InMail. The concept of this show emphasizes the idea of quote-unquote blind dating. The contestants of the show must get to know each other by talking through a wall without an indicator of their suitor's physical appearance. The couples will officially be permitted to see each other once they begin their engagement. Let's see if the capital of politics can make the transition to the capital of romance.
With a little more than 30 days left in the election cycle, vice presidential candidates Senator J.D. Vance and Governor Tim Walz went head-to-head in the first and only vice presidential debate of this cycle. Ananya Gondesi is going to walk us through some highlights from the night.
With just 4 weeks to Election Day, Senator J.D. Vance and Governor Tim Walz took to the debate stage to argue on issues of importance to voters in what will likely be the final debate in the 2024 election cycle. The candidates faced off on issues of foreign policy, abortion, the economy, immigration, and democracy. Both dodged questions and criticized the other's party while also having rare moments of agreement on certain topics such as gun violence. Take a look.
Governor Walz and I actually probably agree that we need to do better on this. The question is just how do we actually do it?
I 100% believe that Senator Vance hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting. And I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's doing okay. Christ have mercy.
But when it came to other moments, they were very much in opposition. One notable moment came when both of their mics were muted when talking about Haitian migrants. Earlier this year, a false claim was spread on X and through many politicians that illegal migrants were entering the country and, quote, eating cats and dogs, a story that has now been debunked by the Ohio governor. Yet Vance continued to repeat the claim on the debate stage.
The CBP app has not been on the books since 19.
The audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
Vance was not the only one saying false claims, however. Walz claimed that Trump had not paid taxes in 15 years. But according to CBS, Trump did pay taxes from 2015 to 2020. Another crucial moment came when Walz admitted he was misleading about his time in Tiananmen Square in China. Walz had claimed earlier that he was present during the summer of the massacres, which had occurred there in 1989. But according to the AP, public documents showed he was actually there in August.
But I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. I got there that summer and misspoke.
A final tense exchange came towards the end of the debate, in which Walz and Vance discussed the basis of democracy, and when Walz asked Vance if he believed that Trump lost the 2020 election.
Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala...
That is a damning non-answer.
Has she...
It is still unclear whether this debate will have an impact on voting, especially this close to Election Day. As the race continues, we will see just how that plays out. For GWeek, I'm Ananya Gondesi.
Thanks, Ananya. GW has recently installed a new self-service locker system for mail in some residence halls, including Shankman and West Hall on the Vern. Packages are delivered to the residence hall and placed in a locker depending on size. Residents then receive an email informing them of their package to pick up, along with a specific code that they enter on the keypad. Upon entering the code, the locker automatically opens and the resident can grab their package. Prior to implementing the system, there was an overload of packages being delivered on a daily basis, causing a backlog of students unable to pick up packages. The system aims to mitigate this issue by allowing students to pick up their packages at any time.
Let's welcome Weatherman Dan, who will guide us through the weather for the start of fall and the devastating hurricane that swept the East Coast. Dan, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Abby. Good morning and welcome back, GWeek. My name is Dan Salim, aka Weatherman Dan. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get to it. All right, so taking a look at this week's weather, it's great news. So the rain we've been experiencing because of Hurricane Helene is gone, and we're going to have a week full of sunshine. So take a look at those temperatures, though. We're officially breaking into days in the mid to high 50s and 60s. So if I were you, I'd probably wear a light jacket. No need for a winter coat because the weekly wind speed average is going to be more than half of what it was last week. Overall, this coming week is going to be a lot sunnier, but a little cooler than last week. So put away the umbrella, and if I were you, I'd use this week to do your typical fall activities like pumpkin and apple picking before it gets too chilly. All right, moving over to the touch screen. We noticed that the report matches up with a high pressure system. So let's take a look at these patterns more closely. We're going to get to the cyclone activity down in the south, but for just a second, pay attention to what's happening down near Florida and the Gulf. So that's a patch of rain, and that's going to make it difficult for current recovery efforts in Florida and Georgia after Helene. Now, focusing on the greater area of the U.S., we see no rain, and quite honestly, that's not really good for the Midwest. Unlike D.C. in the eastern region, the Midwest has been experiencing droughts and no rain. But as for us, this is really good news since we have these two high pressure systems right here. They're actually going to move through the week to us on the eastern seaboard, and that means no rain, clear skies, and sunny days. Moving back to the big screen and to the topic of hurricanes. So we're in the thick of tropical storm season right now, and it's been really active. As we know, Hurricane Helene had a devastating toll on Florida and states up to North Carolina. Over 200 people's lives were taken, and nearly 1 million people are still without power. Helene has become one of the most deadliest hurricanes in the modern era, and that could really be attributed to climate change, with pockets and more pockets of warm air in the Atlantic creating storms that are stronger and more extreme than the usual degree that we're going to get. So the question that really remains is, should we expect more storms like Helene till the hurricane season ends in November? Well, let's take a look at this next map. So this is Hurricane Kirk. Kirk is what we're going to call a fish storm, so he's not actually going to hit any land, but the ideal hope is that since the storm is in the middle of the Atlantic, it'll just die out on its own. The storm is going to make its way up through the north through this weekend, but it's going to dwindle in direction coming to Monday. Kirk currently has 130-mile-per-hour winds and is labeled as a Category 4 hurricane, so that's a monster. But with that being said, he may cause a few waves and small storms for our friends in the UK, but that should be about it. And now if there's anything to be worried about, I'm going to say that it's going to be Leslie, and nope, not from Parks and Rec. Currently, she's a tropical storm, but that's going to change very soon as she makes her way to the northeast and picks up momentum. Now, the major concern here would be if Leslie makes her way onto these islands over here in the Caribbean Sea. But according to current models, there's a very strong chance that Leslie's going to miss those Cabo Verde Islands and all will be well. Overall, Helene, Kirk, and Leslie are causing wind and precipitation havoc in the south and the Gulf. But the overall fall for Americans seems to be filled with sunny skies, calm winds, and crisp 60-degree days. So stay safe out there, GW. I'm Weatherman Dan, and that was your forecast. Signing off till next time, back to you, Abby and Avanti.
Thanks, Dan. I'm really looking forward to that cooler weather, and from everyone here at GWeek, our thoughts are with all of those affected by the hurricane. Iran launched around 180 ballistic missiles into some of Israel's major cities on Tuesday, October 1st. According to Al Jazeera, the missiles were in response to, quote, the killings of civilians in Gaza, end quote. President Joe Biden said that the U.S. is, quote, fully supportive of Israel, end quote. However, when asked by reporters if he would support Israel striking Iranian nuclear sites, he said he would not back that and calls for a proportional response.
In some shocking developments here in the district, council member Trayon White was arrested by the FBI for allegedly accepting bribes. Emily Huang has the story.
In DC News, Councilmember Trayon White has pleaded not guilty to bribery charges. On Thursday, September 12th, Trayon White, a DC councilmember representing Ward 8, pleaded not guilty to charges of federal bribery. He was accused of pressuring employees of the DC Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement and the DC Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services to extend contracts in exchange for $156,000. These contracts were intended to extend anti-violence contracts to an associate. In response to these charges, Councilmember White was offered a plea deal, which he rejected. Allegedly, in the bribery, he received 4 cash payments of $35,000. He did not answer any questions from the media regarding his court case, but later made a statement saying that he would like to continue his re-election campaign. Despite the accusations, Trayon White has rendered supporters. After the trial, his supporters wore merchandise saying, "I'm with Trey." Councilmember White reassured his supporters that he is committing to continuing his work for Ward 8. In GWeek, I'm Emily Brown.
Thanks, Emily. After the break, we will be talking with lifestyle anchors Nina Rodriguez and Cassidy Corey about all the spooky and scary things you can do this fall in the district.
The team after an abysmal year with the Flyers. Andrei Svechnikov makes his return this season.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
over. The air is getting a bit colder, and the arguably best season in DC is upon us. I'm Nina, joined by Cassidy, and here are some of the best activities around the DMV to get in the spooky spirit.
If you're looking to escape the city and enjoy the season's beautiful foliage, the trip to the U.S. National Arboretum is perfect for you. This park extends 446 acres wide and truly encapsulates the fall foliage. Another feature of this park includes the old National Capitol columns, which can satisfy your inner historian as well as serve as the perfect backdrop to your fall Instagram post. This escape is located in the Northeast DC neighborhood and has free admission between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m.
While this may be a bit overdone, the National Mall is an undeniably beautiful place to take in fall scenes. Since it is just a short walk from campus, it can be a midday breather to motivate you to keep studying. All of the tree-lined pathways have begun turning into breathtaking shades of red and orange and reflect perfectly into the ponds and the iconic National Mall pool. Grab a picnic blanket and your favorite fall treat and go enjoy the autumnal scenery at the most iconic part of the city.
If you're looking for a little scare to start off your Halloween season, a short walk to Georgetown may be exactly what you need. The famous steps shown in The Exorcist are located at the cross between M Street and Canal Road. This narrow staircase is lined with ivy and brick to transport you to the iconic spooky scene. This historic site is part of many walking tours of Georgetown, particularly walking ghost tours, if you're interested in some more scare.
While this is technically not in the district, this quaint getaway had to make our list. Old Town Alexandria is an adorable little town just across the river, which is home to beautiful fall scenes and the perfect Gilmore Girls fantasy. During the fall, the entire town decorates and holds many festivals and events to get you in the spirit. With endless cobblestone streets and small cafes, exploring Old Town is the perfect fall weekend edition.
Lastly, my favorite part of the segment, fall treats around the city. District Donut just launched their fall flavor, a sweet potato pie donut. This donut features a sweet potato pie filling, marshmallow glaze, and a pecan topping. Additionally, they also started serving a caramel apple streusel. Ice Cream Jubilee is scooping up 2 new fall flavors, pumpkin honeycomb and sweet molasses ice creams. For my coffee lovers, Yellow Cafe features their Golden Date Cappuccino, which is your classic cappuccino with molasses syrup.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for all of those ideas. I'm really looking forward to the foliage that is going to come with the fall. I've already have plans with some of my friends to do a picnic on the mall, so I'm really looking forward to that.
That's awesome. I'm so excited about all the sweet treats. I love anything pumpkin and anything sweet potato, so that donut, that sweet potato donut, I'm so looking forward to it. DC lawmakers voted last week on legislation that would make it easier for landlords to evict tenants for not paying rent, which may have drastic impacts for thousands of DC residents. With the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, DC has provided funding for overdue rent to district residents earning less than 40% of the area median income. However, the ERAP application portal is not accepting applications at this time due to reform efforts by the DC Department of Human Services to ensure that ERAP funds go to those who face the most urgent need for rental assistance. If the new legislation is passed, funding for ERAP will continue, but eligibility will be harder to meet.
New information was released in Donald Trump's January 6th case after a federal judge briefly unsealed parts of the testimony provided by Jack Smith, who is leading the special counsel for the case. Smith's testimony alleges that when Trump was informed that former Vice President Mike Pence's life was in danger, he responded, quote unquote, "So what?" The damning revelation, among many others, comes as a committee continues to conduct an investigation into the January 6th attempt to overturn the 2020 election. According to the New York Times, the 165-page brief also alleges that on a flight with Trump and his family, an Oval Office assistant overheard Trump saying, quote, "It doesn't matter if you won or lost the election, you still have to fight like hell," end quote. The special counsel headed by Smith continues to push forth these allegations, just 3 months after the Supreme Court granted Trump immunity from prosecution. On CNN, Trump responded to claims calling Smith a quote-unquote deranged person and alleging that the case was a weaponization of government. It is unlikely any action will be taken before the pivotal 2024 election this November. That's all we have for you this kickoff episode for GWeek. I'm Abigail Brubaker.
And I'm Avanti Patworthen. Hope you have a great semester, GW.